Here's your update. The mayor will speak, and we are inviting you to ask every single question that you have when it pertains to trash, and he will be answering every question pertaining to trash in this news conference. Okay?
First and foremost, good morning. Good to see you all. It's been some time, and I know that you have some questions that you want to ask. I wanted to talk about the recent conversation surrounding trash. I won't recount all of the history because you have been present for a good portion of the history, but I do want to start with acknowledgement that there was an effort on our behalf, meaning my behalf and the administration's behalf, to reach a compromise. In fact, some of you had asked in some interviews, had there been some negotiations taking place? And at that time, I actually declined to tell you, right? And the reason I declined to tell you, I didn't deny that it was happening, but I said that I didn't want to go into any details. Well, the reason that I didn't want to go into details is because I wanted to make sure that egos were set aside, that I didn't overpromise and underdeliver, nor did I speak for any particular council person about their views. And so, so much so we me and Councilman Banks even went to dinner together to talk about what our efforts were. And the fact that we didn't want to see trash delayed or no longer picked up and the residents suffer at the hands of that. I will go into the points of what we discussed. There were a number of concerns. Every time you've asked me about trash, I've given you the same line. And what I've told you is that we're in litigation. And the reason I mentioned the litigation because if the court were to rule against the city, then the potential consequence, or one of the potential consequences of that, would be to pay the cost of that contract to that vendor, right? And what that could potentially mean to the residents is that we would have to pay, one, the cost of the vendor who is picking up the trash, and potentially two, the cost to Richards if they were to win the lawsuit. And that would be doubling the cost that is already significantly higher, doubled and even tripled from the cost, from the price that we're used to paying. And so that is a direct effect to the residents of Jackson. Throughout all of this, the only loyalty that I have expressed is a loyalty to price. The only loyalty I have expressed is to finding how do we have garbage collection at a cost that our residents can afford. Why is that important? Well, that's important because our water rates are going to go up over time. We've already raised them substantially. In the same bill that we're raising water rates because we know that we have to maintain, we have to, do repairs to our water system. In the same bill, they will have their garbage rates go up, right? So you would have that go up not only due to the cost in the market having changed and the fact that a new RFP has to consider gas prices have gone up, the price of acquiring trucks have gone up, the price of all of these things have risen substantially. On top of that, you would have a lawsuit where we would have to pay someone else. And so that's why we said, listen, the lawsuit is so controlling. In fact, I know that the question has come, did the judge order that an RFP be done? No. Judges talk through their orders, and that was never said to me by the judge, right, or anybody else. Now, I can't tell you what conversation or suggestions or encouragement he may have given the council members, right? I can't speak to that. I can say that you could check your own tape, and what your own tape will reveal is what the judge said in open court. What he said in open court, he said, you will never get another RFP for this price again. He said, you will never get this price again. And so while he can't rule that they take that, he could, try to reach out to our sensibilities in understanding that was the best price that we were going to get. A minority of the council members, in fact, the negotiation that we came up with was a negotiation for Richards to have 2 years going forward under the RFP, right? Or going forward under the agreement. At the before the conclusion of that 2 years, we would issue an RFP. We had agreed to a third party that we would mutually agree to a third party to administer or to grade or evaluate the RFP. We had agreed to this and said that we were looking to make sure that residents didn't have any complication in that process, right? So that's what I agreed to, and in fact, a majority of the council had indicated that they agreed with that. Only for a slim minority to throw confusion in the process, and they backed away from that agreement. And then they issued a declaration that I have to do an RFP. In fact, one of the council members said that they didn't want me to win, right? And my problem with that is that their focus was on me as opposed to the focus being on the residents, right? The focus was on me as opposed to the focus being on the residents. This isn't about me winning. Once again, my only loyalty is to the best price that we can secure for our residents. And so at some point, I'm in China. They decide that they didn't want to go with that agreement. They issue a demand knowing that I'm in China, that I issue an RFP by a date that they know I can't meet, right? Because they know that I'm going to be in China, right? So it's politics going on. It's a little gamesmanship that was taking place, unfortunately so. And so what we have decided, not because the council has the authority to issue or to declare that we have to issue an RFP, we have decided that because we don't want to be guilty of the same thing, I don't want to make it about them as opposed to it being about the residents of Jackson, I am going to issue an RFP. But I want to be clear on this. It would be incredibly unfair to this administration, after an RFP is issued, after a contract is then negotiated, for that increased cost, for anyone to look at this administration who has gone through exhaustive efforts to maintain and to secure the lowest price. The cost, unfortunately, and this is not trying to be argumentative, because what I regret is that there's this characterization that the trash fight continues. What we have tried to do is try to avoid fighting by all cost, and we continue to do that. But it would be incredibly unfair for anyone to blame the administration for the increased costs. We have told the council that, and if the costs increase, they have to wear that. They have to own up that the cost increased because of their decisions and their insistence, right? So we are going to issue an RFP. The RFP that we issue will have cost being the most significant factor, because our residents cannot afford for us to levy this unfortunate tax on them for this routine service that they need applied. And so I want to make that clear. We don't want to be guilty of the same thing. And so we want to ensure that our residents have garbage pickup. We want to ensure that we do everything to make certain that what happened this summer does not take place again. I believe that pretty much covers the high points of what we wanted to discuss with you. In terms of the lawsuit and how that applies, we will be looking to make sure that we cover the city, or the city protects itself in the best possible way, so that we don't look at that being an additional burden on our residents. This is a paid-for service. So whatever the cost of the contract is, will be the cost applied to the residents. There is no budget line that allows for us to just pull from it. I want to make it clear too. When I talked about the agreement or the negotiation, not only did we have a majority of the council that had agreed to it at that time, our agreement was also to have Richards dismiss their lawsuit. And so we also eliminated the prospect of Richards suing us. So that agreement would have sustained garbage pickup for a period of time. It would have allowed for a third party to do an evaluation so that nobody could claim biased or any issue with the process. And it would have dismissed a lawsuit. It would have accomplished all three of the major threats that have prevented this contract from being issued. But nonetheless, we're going to issue an RFP. When the price comes back, please don't be unfair to this administration and ask us how we arrived at such a high price, okay? We've told you that it would be a high price. And we have every indication from the market, every indication from everyone else who has issued an RFP since us, that it is going to be substantially higher. And that's what's going to happen. With that, any questions that you have? I know that was a big introduction. Yes, sir.
When will the new RFP be issued, and will it be? I guess one question I have: the previous RFP had like 4 different options to choose from. Is this how is this going to be different?
Yeah, the RFP will be done on or before November 21st, and so we're going to do this quickly. We'll have plenty of time for that evaluation to be done. The RFP has not been issued yet, so I can't tell you all of the terms, but I can tell you that our intent is to make it easy. It's going to be streamlined. I don't anticipate all of those options in it. Those options, I do want to remind you, with those options, I delivered it to the council and gave them the alternative or the option of choosing which one they wanted best, right? And so it wasn't an effort, the administration didn't confuse them. We gave them that data, and so they left two remaining alternatives, and I chose the cheaper of the two, because what's my most important factor? Price, right? But out on or before November 21st.
Mr. Mayor, is this a response to the council's action last week where they said they would be issuing an RFP because you had previously failed to do so?
No, it's not a response to anything. First and foremost, you were in court like I was in court. It's abundantly clear. It's abundantly clear that they can't issue an RFP, right? And so this is because I was trying to reach an agreement that didn't leave our residents without trash pickup to begin with. That's why I went to dinner with Councilman Banks. That's why we looked at an agreement that gave them the option of participating in the process of the RFP. It's why we looked at how we had the lawsuit dismissed, is because we don't want our residents to have interruption in their trash service, right? And before I left, there was a majority of the council that had agreed to that negotiation, right? Since I've come back, I've learned that they have chosen a different direction. And so I am still in the same mode that I was in prior to leaving, and that's to ensure that we do everything that we can to prevent trash not being picked up. The council can't issue an RFP. Every court has told them that. The law is abundantly clear. I don't even need to fight that issue because it is a settled issue. What they say, there's a lot of politicking that happens. People want to make sure that they get their point out so that residents accept that. But it's clear that they can't do that. But that's irrelevant because we're choosing to do it because we believe that it's the best path forward considering what's now available to us. If they're not going to agree to that, then we're going to issue an RFP, but that comes with regrets. And that regret is that the cost will be higher on our residents.
And specifically, so you're responding to the failed negotiation, or the deal that fell apart, where you were going to have 2 years of Richards to remain as
I wasn't going to have anything.
Well,
yeah, the
you
city,
you agreed to it.
the city would have agreed to Richards. You got several parties here, right? You have the disagreement over the RFP process and everything that's happening between the council and the administration. You have a vendor who is suing the city, right? And has rights within their lawsuit, and they believe that they have value in their lawsuit. That's what they believe, right? And so, in order for that agreement to happen, we not only had to do something that was considerate of the positions of both the council and myself, but also considerate of that party that has a lawsuit so that it would be dismissed. And that did take place, and the majority, in fact, I believe that Councilman Banks did an interview where Councilman Foote came out and said, he came out and said he didn't want this to happen, or he disagreed with it and didn't want me to win, right? And Councilman Banks clarified that there had been negotiations and discussions. That is evidence that what I am telling you is what took place, right? And so at some point they had some separate conversations with themselves. I won't read into those conversations, but the conclusion is that they no longer were willing to make an agreement. Also, I think I would remind you that the council on several city council meetings put it as a discussion item. Mayor, what are you going to do? Mayor, what are you going to do? Mayor, we need to issue an RFP. Mayor, what are you going to do, right? And I told them the same thing that I shared with you. I said, listen, we got to consider how the lawsuit plays in this. We got to consider how that affects the price and the cost to the residents, right? And so what I did was went to the lab and I talked to my team here, and I asked the city attorney's office whether certain things could be legally agreed to. And then I met to try to negotiate that, because I can tell you that part of the process of putting it on the agenda was to suggest for a legal position that I wasn't acting, right? Only for me to act, only for me to sit down, only for me to negotiate, only for us to have an agreement and that be backed away from. So, the best option that I have available to answer your question is to issue an RFP, because given the alternative sometimes as mayor, and I was told this before I took office, sometimes as mayor, the choices you have before you is the choice between a bad decision and a worse decision. And I believe that it would be a worse decision to see the residents not have garbage pickup. The bad decision is that that's going to come at a higher price that it didn't necessarily have to come at.
But won't you bear some of that responsibility because of this ongoing dispute with the council over failure to make an agreement?
No, because the agreement that if they took it today still is the lowest agreement that would have been available at that time. So the option that I've been fighting for because of price is still available today if they wanted to take it, right? So I can't bear responsibility because of their insistence not to take that price. I can't make them, say, listen, I want the residents to have the lowest cost. I can't make them do that. The price has not increased because, the price has not increased at my hands because of our disagreement. The fact that they're unwilling to take it means that now that I have to, or now that I'm choosing to issue an RFP, the price will increase. But I'm not willing to see residents go without their trash picked up.
But if you're saying you want bridges to remain for 2 years, how can that not, at least in the short term, not be seen as a win for you?
That means that your question presumes that I have an affinity for Richards. I'd have an affinity for the lowest price, right? And so my option was, how do we maintain the lowest price for residents, right? Their choice was, how could they be a part of the RFP process, which I would have relinquished to by giving them that third party that they asked for, right? And then Richards would have dropped their lawsuit. So it wasn't a win for me, right? There is no win for me. I am agnostic when it comes to companies. The only thing I care about is the price. The way you know that I'm agnostic is because in this process of issuing several RFPs, I've done 3 different things, right? The first time, I declined all of them and gave Waste Management a 1-year option, right? The second time, FCC won, and mind you, every time this happens, I'm not a part of the review committee. These are the recommendations that are given to me. And I've just accepted the recommendations given to me, right? And so when FCC won, I put them forward. They voted that down. And then when Richards won, I put them forward and they voted that down. So it's no win for me other than, to see the price be as low as possible. In fact, what we're choosing to do now, it is unfortunate that what was the biggest and most important factor in price will in some ways be compromised.
Will it be a conflict or an issue if Richards is a part of this new RFP?
No, I think I don't think they have any legal.
Legally, there's no bar to them responding to it. They can respond to the RFP just like any other vendor,
Even though they have a lawsuit against the city?
even though they have a lawsuit against the city. There's nothing in the law that requires them from responding to another RFP.
We've had construction firms that have sued the city on construction projects. They've continued to respond to work that has been done. They've continued to win bids and issue. So there's precedence that the fact that you're a part of a lawsuit doesn't preclude you from being a part of applying for more work. That's clear.
The example I would give is Socrates Garrett. He's had pending litigation against the city of Jackson for the last probably 10 years. He consistently, every other agenda, he's on the agenda with contracts. So there's nothing precluding that.
I have a follow-up question. I know the city has been in talks with MDEQ about fines related to the previous trash contract. Has there been any resolution reached in that? And does this decision to issue a new RFP have anything to do with those talks?
I can't speak for MDEQ, and I have not consulted with them prior to the decision of issuing a new RFP. I will tell you that the city will do its best through our city attorney's office to negotiate, in our best interest as it relates to penalties. So that's all I can share about that.
When you say a minority of the council scuttled this agreement, do you mean 2 or 3 or 1?
Well, I'll say this. When I say that there was a majority, there were 4 confirmed individuals that said that they would support the agreement. And so I am aware of 1 or 2 council members. The third, I don't know what his position was. So I will just stick by a minority was in stated objection to it. And apparently that was enough to derail an agreement taking place.
Can you say the 4 that would support it?
I'll let them speak for themselves. Not that I'm trying to hide who they are, but I'll let them speak for themselves. I'm sure that you will ask them their questions, and they may have what they see as very plausible explanations as to why, they decided to go a different direction. I'm not here to fight, right? I'm not here to battle. I'm sharing with you information that you didn't have, right? Or confirming information that you may have heard of and didn't have the confirmation on. I'm telling you what the negotiation was. I'm telling you why the factors were placed in the negotiation, what the consideration was. I'm telling you what was indicated to me and to our administration in terms of who would agree to it, right? And I am telling you what we're doing now, right? And so I think that it would be inaccurate if it were portrayed as an ongoing battle, because we're not battling, right? That's not our aim. We're not going to make it about the administration versus the council. What we're going to lift up is ensuring that Jacksonians are not harmed. That's what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to stick by, and we're going to be, determined in that posture.
One other question on this. This is kind of related to trash on this, but
Is it really? Let's see. It seems like you're trying to dance to something.
No, I'm always trying to. But as far as collecting the collections that come in for solid waste from residents, how's that working right now? Is that all going to the third party and he's submitting payments to the city? And how's that going to work in the future?
Yeah, he's I can't predict the future. It's a bit of a unique situation and out of necessity. But right now he is collecting and issuing what he collects to the city of Jackson based on what is related to sanitation costs.
Is Richards going to be the new vendor in that RFP?
Oh, I don't know who will submit, and I don't know who will be selected. I can tell you that we've done 3 different RFPs and 3 different things have happened, right? So that's all I would tell you. I don't know. It will likely, who has the best price will be who has the strongest hand.
Can you share what vendors are on the table?
Oh, this is when the RFP
Okay, gotcha.
is when the RFP is issued, then there's a time period for vendors to respond. We don't know in advance who's. We can probably speculate, but I wouldn't do that because that would be ill-advised. But we don't know who's going to respond and who's not going to respond.
Mr. Mayor, in the
Wait,
past.
wait. Tori, will you just really briefly explain the RFP process, just so everybody's clear how that works?
Sure. So there's a statutory requirement that the city issues a request for proposals to obtain solid waste collection services. And so most of you all know this. We've gone through this process several times, but the administration issues the solid waste RFP through the solid waste division. There's a panel of 6 that do the evaluation. It typically takes us about 30 days. What I would say is we're right on target in terms of timing. Which was intentional. We always knew that the last RFP, if you look at the last one we issued it October 21st of 2021. We'll be about a month behind in issuing this one. It'll go out on or before November 21st of 2023. So we'll be right on target to make sure that we have a contract in place, or a contract is at least recommended to the city council on or before, I would say January 31st of 24.
Mr. Mayor, in the past, council members have talked about the scoring process for picking a new vendor, and their argument has been that it may be skewed because the people on the committee work for the administration.
Well, that would only be the same process that every administration since the beginning of time has had, right? So that's not unique to this administration. Every administration in every city in the state of Mississippi does it that way. What I just shared with you, though, is that I was willing, even through the negotiation, I was willing to allow a third party to do that, right? Now, do I have great confidence that if a particular vendor didn't win, that it would change? I won't speak to that, right? But what I will say is that I was willing to do that for the sake of negotiation. That's what a negotiation is, right? A negotiation is nobody walks away with things that, as mayor, I'm giving away an authority that is granted to me by virtue of my position, right? Just as I did when I gave them the raw scores, right? As mayor, it is put in my hands by my authority to select from the numbers that the review committee gives me, right? And I chose not to do that. That's what was so incredibly unique in me giving them the raw scores, is that I'm saying, listen, y'all say y'all don't trust this. Y'all say that y'all have questions. We did things like blind scoring and everything else. And as an extra effort, I'm giving you my right? And so, in this process, because we weren't agreeing, I'm just going to do it the standard way. And however it comes out, however it shakes out, we'll submit that.
So no third party.
No third party. We're going to do it the regular way. I'm going to see. I told you what's going to be the most heavily weighted, part of it, and that's going to be price, right? And everybody has a fair opportunity to give their very best price, right? That's fair.
Bottom line, though, Jackson ratepayers will be having to pay higher garbage bills. Given the inflation and the time that's
I think that is a very safe conclusion to reach. And that, his question was, bottom line, Jackson residents will have to pay a higher rate due to inflation and other factors in the market. And that is what we were trying to avoid, right? And so that's what I reiterate. It would be unfair to the administration that when that happens, for the blame to be laid in our laps.
What I would add on our research is if you look at every RFP that was issued by neighboring counties and municipalities, after our RFP was issued, the prices all go up. And if you look at municipalities the same size as the city of Jackson, consistently since 2021, they've been getting back rates that are double and triple the price that we were paying for garbage pickup.
We were getting, an excellent rate, right? We were getting an excellent rate. If I'm at a negotiation table, just if we obviously have this complicated RFP thing that we have to do, but if we're just at the table and we're just talking about two parties and who gets the best end, the city of Jackson was getting the better end of the stick. That is without question, the city was winning in that negotiation, and unfortunately we lose that price.
You mean with Richards?
With Richards, even with FCC at the time that we were in both scenarios, we were, I believe, getting the greatest bang for our buck and the lowest buck possible to pay.
You guys have any more questions? I mean, now's the time. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.